I am a professional animal communicator and I'm a nature intuitive. I like to say I began my journey really at a year old, not because beautiful animals were coming to my crib, which would have been amazing, but I grew up, I was a child of the 70s in the San Francisco Bay Area. That pretty much explains who I am completely in that one sentence. My mom went to a well-known pet psychic at the time in the city, and in an open gallery type reading, he pointed out to her and said, your dog wants you to know he doesn't mind your child sitting on its back, pulling on its ears. My mom was like, what just happened? This man just identified something happening in my home and my child, he doesn't know me. So she did a session with him, but the point was that she came home a believer. It changed her life in that moment. And so from 1 year old, it changed my life. My mom raised me to never doubt that the animals could communicate, to never question, to know that. So my personal journey began in 2008 when I was dealing with my own pet and dealing with some issues with her, and decided why, and started working with animals holistically and thought, why am I going to the people when I could just go to them? So I started my training. And in that training, so I've just kind of continued that journey, but that training is really what also changed me in my work over the years. Classic definition of what is animal communication. It's the telepathic transference of energy, of brain waves, of radio, similar to the Wi-Fi, to our frequencies that go back and forth. It's just that exchange of energy, of knowledge, of intuition. Animals live from the right sides of their brain primarily. They are always connected to spirit, even though they're with us. Even though we're connected with spirit, we get caught up in everything. Animals maintain, I like to say they maintain a paw or a tail there all the time. They're always connected to their spirit self. They don't have that filter to shut that down. So that keeps them in a state of divine love at all times, seeing us and the world around them in that way. Children cannot talk to animals. They can talk to animals so easily simply because we haven't kind of started changing, talking and I don't like the phrase, the imagination, but that concept that happens. So that's why children a lot will know what animals are saying to them. And they do, because it's an open pipeline. As a communicator, I'm tuning into that heart-to-heart connection. What I do is I'm meeting with that animal spiritually, and I like to say I'm working with a spiritual essence that's inhabiting that body, that vessel. Just like we're spiritual beings having a human experience, people love to say, they are spiritual beings having a four-legged experience, a winged experience, a finned experience. It's the same thing. Just they're more in tune with who they are as that spiritual being still. All animals communicate. I love to say I work with everything from earthworms to elephants and everything in between. This opportunity to communicate with animals allows me to see the world through their perspective. I'm looking at them they're sharing their innermost thoughts with me or with whoever they speak with. They're allowing you to see their perception of how they see the world and their people and everything going on around them. And that will change your perception of how you see things as well. Communicators are all a little different. I like to say we all have our niche in our professions and our fields, right? We all have our strengths. So animals, some communicators send and receive a little bit differently. How I receive is the story I like to share when I was in my training and why I call my sessions a heart-to-heart. When I was in training, I spent a year I worked with a wonderful communicator named Patty Summers in Virginia. And in my advanced class, I was up there for 3 days, and we were bringing photographs, back those little picture printed things we used to carry, not just cell phones, with our animals. And we'd write a question on the back of the picture, and we were in a round table going through the room, going around practicing with each other. And my teacher picked up my photograph, and I was like, yes, the teacher had my picture. I'm going to get the best mini session. My cat had been biting me. And I said, why is she biting me? And I thought I was going to, find out what the cat's problem was, essentially. And my teacher looked at me and she talked to the cat, and she looked at me and she goes, you're weak. You're insecure. She says you're not standing in your truth. You're not believing in yourself enough. I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh. But she was right. That wasn't what I was expecting to hear, but my cat was right. My marriage was crumbling. I was going through a horrible time. I was getting ready to go through a divorce. I was completely just hiding it from the world, I thought, and I was, but not from her. She saw through me. She knew me. She hit it right when she said, "You're not living in your strength." And she was right, I wasn't. So I worked with her in that session to work on myself. And she stopped biting me. She didn't bite me anymore. Once in a while, she'd give me a good nip, and she was right. Those days I deserved it. I was like, yeah, well, we all have our moments, Kiwi, you know, and so, but it really changed me because I realized communication was more than just, why are they doing this? What is happening here? I realized that they are a reflection of us. Their behaviors are reflections sometimes of who we are because they truly do see us. They truly know us. And that really changed how I started communicating to them. So as I would go out there and started communicating, I would get into these sessions with people and it would get very personal. I was like, oh boy, how am I gonna tell this stranger what I'm hearing? And I actually went back to Kiwi and I allowed her to kind of help me through that and guide me through how am I doing this? And I realized my sessions were going in a little bit deeper, which is what eventually led me to what's called shamanic animal communication. And so, like I spoke of earlier, my communication there is telepathic, which is that very direct mind link that most people are aware of, that a lot of people commonly do. I describe myself as really landing on that shamanic side and that heart to heart. Like I said, I'm looking at that thread. So when I'm meeting with an animal, when I connect with them, it's on the animal's terms and they come through first. So when I meet with an animal, I go into my space, into my spirit space, and I allow them to see me and from my guides, and we all kind of come together. And I have really what I like to consider a sacred space that we're in on spirit side. And then I let them come through and I let them talk. Show me who you are is really what I say. Show me who you are. And when they do that, then I start, when I'm sitting down and we're in a session, I'm going to work with them for about 30 minutes before, and then we're going to sit down. And then as we're talking, again, this is their chance. If I kept you quiet your entire life, and I'm now letting you talk to the person you love the most, you probably want to speak first. So I'm going to let them speak first. And that information, as that comes through, is coming through again. I'm looking at that heart connection. And that heart connection is going to really, really just almost swell and grow as all of a sudden I'm describing this intimate relationship between you and your animal that you two share, because it's their words, it's how they see you. And they are all of a sudden describing who they are to you. And when that happens, you're going to start, your connection is going to grow through as well. And I kind of sit in the middle between you and I just kind of allow that to go back and forth. I do ask people for questions in sessions, but it's usually a little ways in. And most of the time, halfway through the session, the animal has already addressed everything because they are consistently aware of everything we're thinking, feeling, knowing, doing. It's why you're sitting at your desk typing away and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to give Harvey more water. Why do I need to? You get up, you go down, the bowl's empty. Why? Because Harvey's sitting there like, I need water. Hear me now, I need water. But they are transmitting and we are transmitting to them all the time. But animals have, I love to say, they have secret lives, they have feelings, they have wisdom well beyond us. And that's what we're really getting this chance to have them express to us and share with them. When I trained in communication, one of the greatest gifts I was taught was that it was called coming back to the table. Love that. Coming back to the tables, because at one point, all of us existed at this table, the two-leggeds, four-leggeds, the winged ones, the many-leggeds, the finned. We were all here together. And then the two-leggeds, we got up, we walked away. We separated ourselves from them. And in communication and in trainings, you are coming back to the table. And once you sit at that table, you just stay in that conversation. You're keeping that wavelength open. And when that happens, your animals, you're allowing them to see us deeply as to who we are. Like Kiwi saw me and sold me out to everybody. But it does change your bond with them. It allows that. A lot of people come into sessions with, people come in sometimes with behaviors, things they want to address. And I always let people know, please know that a behavior is probably a reflection of something going on within your life. Or we're going to work with you and the animal and see how we can come together. But because I'm working with them on spirit side, it's not about, there's no language barrier. There's no There's no barriers because it is that spiritual being that's working. They're talking to me about that body they're in and how is that body working with you? Who are they with you every day? They always know, like I said, like the water bowl, they know what we're thinking. I have millions of stories, which I won't go into, but I have a couple of favorites. And one of them is this little dog that was having separation anxiety. And this person met with me at a show and she said, we're thinking about putting him in dog care. Ask him how he feels about dog care. And he's like, so I asked him, he says, it's fine. I'll make friends. He's very nonchalant. She was a little put off. She's like, well, I thought he loves dogs. Why doesn't he want to go be with the other dogs? And I said, so I kind of pushed back at him. He's like, it's fine. I'll make friends, but I really want the taco. I was like, what on earth? And so, and I was sending him. So in communication, I get information through downloads. I get voices essentially, but it's more of the energy of what I believe the voice is. And then I also get pictures. And so sometimes what I do when I'm with them on spirit side is I start sending them pictures of things that we want to, okay, so I started sending him images of a taco, a stuffed taco. And he's just like, no. So I said to her, I have to ask you, he keeps bringing up a taco. I don't know, does he have a toy? What is the taco thing? Because the one thing I've learned in all of my years is that do not assume that I understand anything. And she looks at me and she says, oh, and she starts laughing. She's like, oh, yeah, my husband and I have, one of the things we've been discussing is getting another dog. And we agreed that if we do, we haven't decided. She goes, if we do, we're going to name it Taco. I was like, well, there you go. You got to get that dog because your dog is very aware of it. But that's how tapped in they are all the time with us. They're completely aware of what we're thinking, what we're doing, what we're picturing. I always say to animals, it's not that they can spell. When we spell, like we're going to the VET today. It's not that they can spell. It's that they know, because what are you doing? You're picturing getting them in the car. You're picturing going to the hospital. You're picturing getting them out. You're like, oh my gosh, they're going to stick the needle in them. They're just like, oh, they're seeing that. They're seeing that imagery, right? And they're also energetic beings. So what are they feeling? Your energy, right? The more attention we have, the more attention they have. So they're constantly connected with us in all of these ways. And in animal communication, I learned you have to kind of almost, I don't want to say control, but just be aware of whatever is happening within you because it's happening within them. Animals, another way I work with them very frequently is in medical. And that's really common. People will come to me and we'll go in, and it's just similar to like doing regular sessions with the animal. I'm going in and I'm scanning into the body. From the shamanic side, this is where it goes a little deeper because I'm looking in a body scan and I'm allowing the animal to let me see them, or through my guides and theirs, we're looking at this vessel and we're looking at areas of the body. And over the years, I've learned to identify what cancer is looking like. What is arthritis feeling like? What is congestive heart, breathing issues, teeth issues. And I'm seeing that body and I'm seeing where there's blockages, whether it's from trauma or whether it's from disease or illness. But we're also letting the animal bring that information to you and say, this is what I need for this, or this is how I'm coping, or if they're hiding it. And it allows them a chance to really speak to that body and have you work with them. I always tell everyone I'm not a veterinarian, so you have to use all the information on your own. Don't send me a bill for an MRI. Can't pay it. Can't do my own dog's MRI. Can't do yours. But through that opportunity, it lets you really step into that. And again, it's one of those things when I sit down with the animal, I allow them to let me feel into that. And then I'm going to bring that to you and I'm going to have you confirm that. And it's important for people to be able to know that what you thought might be was going on with them is what you were feeling. And I love when my sessions, it's not about validating what I'm getting. It's about bringing through information to validate what you already know about your animal. And shows how connected. And that's the thing, is it really brings through how connected we are to our animals, how much they truly, truly know us. And from a shamanic side, I do a lot of work with them also in that sense of going in and helping to clear, because animals need soul retrievals no different than humans. They go through a lot. They deal with a lot of trauma. I'm working with a dog currently that came from the Korean meat trade. And I'm working with her and doing soul retrieval and doing healing work with her. And this dog has gone from she's been with her person for 5 years and she's never allowed her person to touch her. She's afraid to go outside. She goes out very carefully. She is now, I found out a couple of weeks ago, has gone outside and is actually barking. This dog doesn't make noise, but she's finding her voice again. We're bringing through and healing those wounds and working with her in her pace, but I'm doing that very calming energetically from spirit side. Probably the biggest reason people reach out to me are animals that have crossed over. So in animal communication, like I said, it's a spirit. So to me, there's no difference whether they're running through your house right now or they passed away 20 years ago. It's still the spiritual being. So that's who I'm connecting with. And when they've crossed over, having that connection to meet with an animal that has passed is, in my personal opinion, one of the most healing things you can do, because it's bringing you that closure. I'm always amazed at how many people come into sessions wanting to know, I just need to know if they're okay. Because we need to hear how they are. And animals love to take us back. For some reason, they'll take many people back through their time of passing, through their time of crossing, because they want to shift that memory for you from the moment you saw them just end their life to, this is the beautiful moment that I shared with you as I left. Just yesterday, a dog shared with me, to her person, as I looked into your eyes as I was leaving, I saw the sparkle that is you coming through your eyes. And that was the last thing I saw. And it allowed her to now change that view of when that dog crossed, because that's what the dog saw in her. So animals on spirit side are always with us, and they're going to come through with messages they love. They're always with us. People have experienced dreaming. Your animals dream walk with you after they cross over. You feel them, you see them. And in these sessions, they love to come through and they love to share that with you. They love to share how you can still be connected with them, because we're always connected. It also helps to work with them before they cross. And I love helping animals before they cross, because you're giving the animal to speak to you on their terms. How do you want to cross from your body? What do you need? What do you want? And have that closure, have that time with your animal. And in my experience, there's a lot of animals that will sometimes cross on their own. After a session, they have that peace, and that shamanic side, we're able to work through that and heal them and bring them into center, but also because they're allowed to just have that moment. It's no different than in human hospice when someone's allowed to say goodbye. The animal gets that chance to say goodbye to you. They get the chance to connect with you, to share with you who they were, who their life, what their life was about, and what they treasured and saw in you, and what they treasured within their life. And also, if they're sick, if they're struggling, if there's anything going on, animal communication and having that connection allows them to share with you also, what do I need at this point? I've gone in thinking animals are going to be like, I'm ready to go. And they're like, no, tell them I want more medicine. Tell them I want more pain meds. Tell them I'm not ready to go. And other times they're very ready. And so it really, and helping people tune into that is just a wonderful way to just feel that, because when you feel that you are actually able to make this decision with your animal, it's life-changing in so many ways. And it's very healing. And then animals come back to us. How many have ever experienced an animal like, I know this is my dog from before. I know this is my cat from before. They come back to us and they return. A lot of people ask if they will, and animals love to identify when they've been with you before. In sessions, it's not uncommon for me to be sitting there working with one dog, and all of a sudden I've got like cats walking in or other animals coming in, and I'm sitting there and I'm in this little room of where I do my sessions, and I'm like, yeah, so my room is full right now with all of these beings, because they come through, and sometimes I just need you to identify their dogs, but you have everyone that you have, right, from your childhood. These animals are still with you, are still a part of you. And sometimes they're back with you, and sometimes they just want to come through and they're like, hey, I'm just with you still. And I always tell people, trust exactly what you're feeling and what you're knowing. When you meet an animal, it may not look like them, but you're going to feel that connection. And animals will share, this is what you want to listen, feel for, recognize, lean into in our net when you come across. Because people ask a lot, will they come back to me? And sometimes we don't expect it. I don't ask my animals to come back to me. I release them and allow them to be who they need to be. My dog now came to me from Russia 3 years ago. She's 7 years old. She had a few years on the streets of Russia. And I was in a class a year and a half ago and found out she was my dog from my childhood. and had no idea, no expected, but it made sense. She was coming back here to reteach me adventure, to be a child, to embrace having fun, to get out there. I work as a nature intuitive. She's like, let's go to the woods. I was like, oh yeah, good idea. And she reminds me all the time when I'm pent up too much. She's always coming. She is always reminding me to go back out there and remind who I am. And that's what we were as a child. She was my dog that hiked the creeks with me in California. We were always in the creeks and the woods and collecting frogs and all these crazy things. And we're still doing that. As a matter of fact, the first month I had her, I just realized this very second, the first month I had her, we were greeted by a toad every evening walk on a corner. That is, I just made that connection. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, thank you, toad. So, but that's what they do. They bring us gifts and lessons. And it isn't, like I said, just our domestics. I work with animal spirit guides of all animals. I have my own animal spirit guides, or like the toad comes around. Yesterday, I had 3 sessions where I had 2 sessions with a fox at a show, 2 sessions, 2 separate people, a fox came up. So fox spirit had messages. And I was sitting there and I saw a fox cross the road outside the hall 3 times yesterday. So fox clearly, and those are the times in communication, like, what does fox need me to know? So that is really, in a nutshell, the world that I live in every day. I'm blessed enough to let this be my life all the time.